This is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and you're listening to the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast.
Waking light, your profile and shadow. Raise yourself to the morning alone. Night is gone.
The one and only Beck with Waking Light, a really beautiful song from a really beautiful album, by the way, if you want to check out the whole thing. But the song is about new beginnings, and I thought it was a very appropriate song to lead us into our topic at hand today, which is how to create a real and meaningful new beginning for yourself. I'm doing this coming up into the new year, coming into 2018, and I hope that this podcast today is actually a potentially transformational experience for you. Today, this is more than a podcast. This is actually going to be a little mini coaching session for you. Just a gift for you to help you transition into a new life segment. If you're not catching this right at the new year, that is okay. If you're in any life space where you're feeling like you need to get refocused and get clear about who you are and what you want, this one is for you. So we're going to have a good time together today. And so welcome. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I'm excited that you dropped in for this one because, we talk about a lot of different things on the podcast, all tied to helping you create love, happiness, and success. And some of them I think are just more informational. But today's is going to be kind of active. And so if you're ready to actually do some work, I think you're going to get a lot out of this today. So brief introduction. Again, if you haven't caught this before, I'm Lisa Marie Bobby. I am the founder and clinical director of Growing Self Counseling and Coaching. We are based in Denver, Colorado, although excitingly, we just opened an office in Los Angeles, and we have some more coming. So our reach is spreading, and that's exciting for me. And we also see people all over the world through online video. And so we offer life coaching, career coaching, therapy, do a lot of relationship work, though. My background, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also trained as a psychologist, and I'm a board certified life coach. But really, my passion is relationship work. And so over the years, as my practice has grown, we've really come more and more to specialize specifically in couples and family therapy. And so that's a lot of what we do is marriage counseling, online, premarital counseling, relationship coaching. But you're not just your relationship either. So even though we talk a lot about relationships on the podcast, in order to be a whole person, you have more going on, and I think that all of us have better relationships when we ourselves are in a good place personally. We feel happy and satisfied in our lives. We're doing the things that are most important to us and feeling, that our lives are meaningful and whole, because then we have more to bring to the table of our relationships. So today's podcast is really more about creating happiness and success, although certainly if you wanted your goal for the coming year or life segment to be really enhancing your relationship, we can certainly make this apply too. So let's just jump into what we're doing today, which is talking about the amazing transformation that can happen when you get clear and focused. And again, I'm going to be giving you a lot of specific information and actually walking you through an exercise that will help you create this for you. But first, I want to tell you, I've been doing this type of podcast for the last couple of years, right around the new year, just because I want to help you. I think a lot of people feel like the new year is a great time to embrace change and really, kind of get their sights on, okay, so what did I learn from last year and who do I want to be this coming year? And so I wanted to do something, to help facilitate that. But I'm even more excited about doing this year because I had a really interesting experience not too long ago. I actually had a listener get in touch with me, as listeners often do, to ask questions or comment. Oh, and I should tell you, if you ever want to be part of that conversation, if you have a question for an upcoming podcast, I always want these to be meaningful for you and really speaking to you and your life and your needs. So you can always get in touch. Our website is growingself.com. You can send a general email that gets, to me. You can also connect with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Dr. Lisa Bobby. I dropped the Marie for Facebook just to make it a little bit more succinct. But get in touch with me to, ask questions for the show. Also, if you come to the blog on the website, growingself.com, there's often a robust kind of community of people asking questions. And I read every single one of those comments and often reply to them at length in the comments section. And so, I can certainly answer some specific questions for you that way. But, I also love your ideas for topics for podcasts. So, because then I can kind of make these to order. So anyway, never hesitate to get in touch with me. But so I had a listener get in touch with me not too long ago. I will call her Jane, and she got in touch sharing that she had the most amazing thing happen. And it was related to this podcast, this activity that we're actually going to do together today. She wrote to me. And I wanted to, before we jump into the actual activity, I wanted to share her words with you because I believe that we learn from other people, other people's stories and experiences. And I think what she wrote was so compelling because, not only was it just like super authentic and really helpful, just for her talking about her process, but I think that what she experienced is so kind of common for a lot of people as they are making real and actual change in their lives. And also because the actual process of change is often, I think, different when you live it than what you think it would be like or should be like. And so I'm just going to read this letter to you so that you can think about how these ideas might apply to your life and maybe be inspired to do something similar yourself this coming year. And then I'll walk you through the same exercise and put you to work. All right, here we go. All right, dear Dr. Lisa, when I heard your Start Strong podcast last year, I was at a low point in my life. I was overweight, I was exhausted, I was heartbroken, I had just ended a dead-end relationship, and I was feeling really lonely. But even worse, I was feeling really down on myself. I constantly compared myself to other people. I always worried of what other people thought of me. I just wanted to hide myself from the world. My job was stressful, yet unfulfilling. I felt fat and gross. I was bored. But deep down, I just did not feel good about myself. And I was also in debt, and that was very stressful for me also. So last New Year's, I decided to do something about it. I was looking for things that would help me make a change, and I came across your podcast. I downloaded the worksheet and walked through everything with you. As I did, I started to cry. I realized that I had become totally disconnected from myself. When you were asking us to list the things that we felt good about having done, I couldn't even think of anything. I wanted to just stop the podcast and go bury myself in ice cream. Oh my gosh, haven't we all had that moment? I can't even. Anyway, but then you started asking about what our values were. And you said something I'll never forget about how your pain points to your values. And how when you're living out of alignment with your values, it hurts and it makes you sad. And that's when you pay attention. And that when you pay attention to those feelings instead of pushing them away, you get direction. Yes, we're going to be talking more about this. So I did the assignment and I realized that it's really important for me to feel healthy and strong. I thought about the times in my life that I was happy and energetic and felt good about myself. And those were the times I was active and exercising. They were also the times when I felt more connected to people. And then I listened to what you were saying about how to make your values active and how to start behaving like those things were actually important. And I realized that the way I was living my life was a total mess. I was not doing any of the things that were actually important to me. I was just sitting around feeling bad about myself and wishing that something would happen to make me feel better. In hindsight, I think I just didn't know what to do or how to get started, and I didn't realize how change happened. I thought that I needed to feel motivated, like happy about it or something. But then I remember what you'd said before, that a lot of the time motivation actually feels like just being disgusted with your circumstances and not wanting to do that anymore. That was definitely true for me. So I started by changing my routine and making my life look more like my priorities. The first thing I did every day was exercise. I put time into meal planning and making healthy food for myself. But at first it was so hard because I didn't believe I could do it. I actually wound up taking your happiness class, and that was huge. Just a quick aside, the happiness class, it's this little online, not little, it's 14 sessions, but it's an online program that we do. It's just, we offer it kind of as an alternative to private counseling or coaching. Anyway, okay, so I didn't believe I could do it. I actually wound up taking your happiness class, and that was huge. When I became aware of how I was totally tearing myself down all the time, doing all or nothing thinking, mind reading, oh my gosh, that was so eye-opening. So learning how to get my head on straight changed so much for me. I started practicing the mindfulness skills you teach and immediately felt so much less anxious. But the letters from my coach, okay, so this is like going into stuff that is in the happiness class. So there's like one activity we do. It's called like a letter from your coach, where you practice kind of talking to yourself in the voice of like a really supportive, encouraging coach. And that activity can be very helpful for a lot of people. Okay, I just wanted to let you guys know what she's talking about, because otherwise you're not going to have any idea what's going on. Okay, but the letters from my coach and the whole part about learning how to love yourself and take care of yourself, take care of myself like I was important, that's what really changed everything. And as soon as I had those tools, and most importantly, learned how to think differently, that's when things really started changing for me. So I stuck to my routine, and it got easier and easier. The more I did it and took care of myself like I mattered, the better and better I felt. And it wasn't just because of the healthy food and exercise. It was that I felt proud of myself for doing it and for following through. And because of that, it naturally started to feel easier to want to be around people again. I started making new friends because I felt more confident and outgoing. I ran into an issue when I started thinking about dating again, because I had so much anxiety after what had happened last time. It was like I didn't trust myself not to get into another crappy relationship. So I actually started meeting with one of the coaches on your team to work through some of that, and that was so helpful. I also did your Find the One dating class, and that helped too. I realized so many mistakes I'd made before that I didn't know I was even making. I saw my ex in so many of those, quote, red light warning signs that you talk about. Live and learn. So that was important. But also in talking through things with my coach, I realized that I tend to lose myself in relationships. It's hard for me to set boundaries with people I care about. I wind up prioritizing their feelings over mine. That was super eye-opening too. Anyway, after learning all that, it made me feel more confident that I could be stronger and healthier next time around. So, Dr. Lisa, here's what happened. Since last January, I've lost almost 40 pounds. I look and feel fantastic. I have so much more energy. I feel good about my friendships and even better about my relationships with my family. I feel more in control of my finances, and I'm making major progress towards paying off my debt. Best yet, I'm dating someone I really like. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but right now it's looking like all green lights. So thank you for everything. And she goes on to say nice things. But okay, so that, my friends, is the process of change. And so the things that really stood out for me about what Jane was saying about her own experience was that her change process, like so many, was just born in this place that felt so like, just like heavy and bad, and that she was really like overwhelmed and did not even know what to do. But she started with something, that she focused on, just the routine, and could grab hold of this, if I can take control over this one thing. And then because she started to work at it more consistently, that in itself began this like snowball effect. The more she did it, the better she felt, because it was like the success built on itself, which I think is a very common experience. But also, and this is, I think, the most just extraordinary thing and the most true thing, and she just articulated it so beautifully, was the way that she was aware of like the obstacles and the things going on inside of herself that totally could have sabotaged this, and it was the self-defeating thoughts that was a big part of it, and even old patterns about not taking care of herself and not prioritizing herself and her needs. And also that she did work around this, that I think for all of us that half the battle is even recognizing what are not limitations, but what's the word I'm looking for? The limits of our current competence almost, like we all have places that we need to work on, and it's not that it's anything bad. It's just, I don't know how to do this yet. And in her case, it was, I don't know how to change the way I think about myself yet, but that she found resources to help herself do that. And I think that is all that any of us can hope for. If it's, personal work or with your relationship, it's not that you have to know everything on your own immediately. It's where do I get help almost? And when we really look at research around what makes somebody an expert or what helps somebody achieve mastery over part of their lives, it's not that they know everything. It's that they feel competent to make changes, and they're able to identify and use resources. Like, who could I ask about this? I bet there's a book out there that talks about this that I could go get from the library and read, and it's just this basic idea that there's information out there and that they can make use of it. And so I think that was just so inspiring, is this when she did hit things that felt like obstacles, she kept going and like found more tools. So that was so amazing. And that also the way she talked about how she did not feel, particularly in the beginning, that this did not feel easy. It felt like something she really had to make herself do. And I think that a lot of times that is the very first stage of change, is that we're not acting from our feelings at all. Because if you act from your feelings, it will a lot of times just derail you, because your feelings are sometimes the last things to change. What we have much more control over are, what are my values? What do I want to be doing? And what do I need to be thinking about in order to help me take that action? And much more, behavioral, like this is what I need to do today in order to reach my goal. And the feelings will then follow. And again, I don't want to discount feelings, because as I've talked about in other podcasts, being connected to your feelings is extremely important to help you understand what those values are in the first place. My hero, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who does the show Cosmos, or did the show Cosmos, which is an amazing show. If you are a card-carrying science nerd like me, watch Cosmos. You will cry, you will weep with joy at just how amazing it is. Anyway, but he uses this beautiful analogy. He talks about the difference in one segment, trying to explain the concept between climate and weather. And so he and a dog are walking down the beach, the coastline, okay? Beautiful, Northern Californian beach with rocks off in the water. And the dog is sort of, as they're walking, running around, running towards the water, running away from the water, circling around. He goes around him, the dog is sort of all over the place. But they're both walking in a general direction together. And he talks about how the dog kind of represents the weather. One day it's hot, one day it's cold, one day it's sunny, one day it rains, and there's a lot more variability in those patterns. And the weather is, I think, a good stand-in for our daily emotions, how we feel day to day. Some days are good, some days are bad, some days you don't feel good, some days you ate something weird, it's like we're all sort of all over the place a little bit, That's the weather. But the climate was represented by he and the dog walking north on the coastline. And that is the broad pattern. So they are going in a general direction together. The dog is all over the place, but they're still moving consistently in one direction. And that is a great analogy for the feelings you have that are connected to your values. And your values are enduring. They are who you are. They are true, even though day to day you might get kind of blown off course. And so the point of all of this is that by connecting to your values, you have something bigger to hold on to. You have a longer term trajectory that will move you forward, while your day-to-day feelings will kind of blow you off path. So if you listen to those feelings in the moment, you can go all over the place. But if you stay hooked into those big values, you'll get where you want to go. So I just wanted to share this beautiful letter with you and this, main idea that I kind of heard in what she was saying, and share this with you because I believe that this idea will help you get even more out of the exercise that we're going to do together right now. So before we move on, I would like for you, when you can, to come to my website, growingself.com/new-years-resolution-success. So New Year's resolution success with dashes in between the words. Because I actually have a PDF assignment for you that is going to walk you through this entire exercise, and I will lead you through it verbally. But so you can listen to me now, but when you can, come to my website, growingself.com, New Year's Resolution Success, which dashes in the middle, so that you can get this same PDF and actually do this writing exercise with me, because I think even though it is certainly helpful to, think through these ideas, you have a completely different experience when you actually take the time and literally write it down. Again, lots of research shows that our brains work a little bit differently when we are converting nebulous thoughts and feelings into written language. and with a pen, it's a different, it's just neurologically even a different experience than even typing. So do yourself a favor, just give yourself the gift of time and space. Download this and print it out when you can. And then do this with me. So the exercise I like to call Start Your New Year Strong. But again, you can do this any time of the year. I have done a similar version of this with myself in June when I felt like I needed a little bit of help, getting clear about, okay, wait a minute, what am I doing again? And getting back on track with goals. So step one of this is to get clear about what you have done. So the first step is to literally make a list of the things that you have done this past year in 2017 that you feel really good about. And so these could be accomplishments, or things that maybe aren't even, what other people would think of as like capital A accomplishments, but just things that you feel good about having done, even if they're not typical goals. And so, scan back, were there weekends away that you feel really good about having taken? Were there personal projects that you completed that made a difference? My husband and I finally painted our freaking living room not too long ago, and that was really good. Every time I walk in my living room now, I'm like, wow, we really needed to do that. So it doesn't have to be like anything major, but just things that make you feel good and that bring you joy. And that it could be books you read, or friendships that deepened, or ways that you were taking care of yourself, or feeling like you were moving further ahead with your career, or having grown in some way, or, facilitating the growth of someone else. If you're a parent, and you're focused on helping nurture and raise beautiful, healthy children, that totally counts. And it's not anything in particular. It's what makes you feel good. So, scan over your life, and the big categories. How's your relationship doing? Finances, your health, your routines, your home, your leisure life. All of these things are just places to check in about. And so look and see, because again, when you tap into the things that you feel good about, that gives you information about your values, and the things that are really most important and meaningful to you. You could have things in your life that were even painful moments, like maybe a relationship ended, and that was difficult, but also on some level that it might have been necessary for that to happen, and an overall positive thing. If you are like Jane and struggling to find anything that you feel really good about, that again is good information, because that feeling is, it's motivation. It's empowering. It's saying, I don't want to feel this way this time next year. So what do I need to do to make that be different? And so, if you're really struggling to find anything that you feel good about having done this past year, think about what you could have done that would have made you feel good this year. And again, it's not that you have to get elected to the Senate or anything huge, but, small, measurable things that would make you feel good about your life. So allow yourself to daydream and play a little bit here, because again, we're not trying to catalog accomplishments. We're trying to help you get connected to your values and envisioning your future, is connected to your past in many ways. So, if you got to do this past year over again and you could have made some changes or gotten some things done, what would have felt good to you? And so give yourself some time to write through those. If you're listening to this podcast and doing your worksheet concurrently, please pause me so that you can spend some time thinking about that. And then once you do it and you think about what events or actions would have made you feel good, use those as a guide to help you understand what is authentically most important to you and helping you get clarity about what your top values are. So if you had some really nice weekends away with your family, what was it about that? For many people, it might be time with family. If it was home improvement projects, like in my own case, it is, I don't know, like the highest value, but it is a value for me to have like a peaceful environment for myself and my family. That is something that feels good to me. If it's your relationships, think about your values around that. Is it connection? Is it intimacy? Is it peace? If you feel good about health accomplishments or wish you'd done more with that, what is it about, health or fitness that is really a value? I know for me, it's around energy. I mean, I feel better when I take care of myself physically. So think about what those values are for you. Again, pause me if you need some time. The third step here, once you're clear about specifically what those values are, I would like for you to rank your top 5 values in order of their importance to you. And I know this sounds a little bit weird because a lot of times when I ask people to do this, they're like, well, they're all important. And, it's important to be clear about what values we are going to prioritize first because, for many people, family is important. The feeling of connection and enjoyment with their partner is important. Financial security is important. Success in their career is important. Fitness is important. And also someone whose number one priority really is financial security or success in their profession. If that is their number one priority, and then their family is the next priority, their life is going to look different than somebody who ranked their family first and then their financial success second. They're going to be making different decisions and they are going to be organizing their time differently and their days are going to look differently than somebody who said that, no, my family or my partnership is my number one or my health is my number one and financial success is a little bit further down the list. And not that there's any kind of value judgment. It's just that we all need to be doing this with open eyes because I think sometimes it's easy to start living your life in such a way that you are acting from your priorities or your values that are not conscious. So that a lot of times if people are like, oh, you know what? I actually have been spending 70 hours a week with my job and about 3 hours a week with my kid. And I'm not actually comfortable with that. And I need to make some changes there. And so, to be able to resort your values and then consequently resort your time can be important or the other way around. So, okay, so give yourself some time to do that. I'm going to stop talking so you can focus on your assignment. So once you have prioritized your values, organized your values in order of their importance, then step 4 is to brainstorm what these values actually look like on a day-to-day basis. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to think about, but say, that you decided your number one priority was having a strong, happy family, meaning, positive relationships with your kids, having an emotionally safe home, having a strong relationship with your partner. What does that look like? So for me, in my house, right now I have a 9-year-old, so having a really great relationship with my son means that I am playing Minecraft. That's actually what it looks like on the ground, or, going and doing those kinds of kid things with him. That is how we connect. So it sounds weird, you might not, if you were going to plan your day, it's like, when am I going to play Minecraft? But, depending on your priorities, that's what it is. Or, time spent with my husband doing the things that we do. Or, for health, for me, it is walking and going to my yoga class. I mean, what does it actually look like when you do the things that you say are important to you? So again, we have to make this concrete, because it's one thing to say, oh yes, health and fitness is very important to me, but what does it look like in very concrete terms? So again, pause me and do some brainstorming around what it looks like when you are doing the things that are important to you. Painting your living room. And then once you've done that, and again, please pause me if you need more time. Step 5 of this is to literally sit down with a calendar, with a weekly schedule, and reorganize your life according to the values, meaning that you put in the quote, big rocks first. You may have heard me, I don't even know, I probably told this story on another podcast, but one of the just wonderful authors around personal productivity, Stephen Covey, he wrote a book years ago, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a great book. I totally recommend it. Oldie but a goodie. And he talks about how he would often do a presentation where he would get up in front of everybody, and he would have a glass jar, and then he would have some smaller jars, a jar full of big rocks, a jar full of medium rocks, a jar full of little rocks, some sand, and some water. And he would have people come up from the audience, and he'd be like, okay, I want you to fit all of these things into this big glass jar. And people would say, okay. And they would start throwing in sand and rocks and water and blah, blah, blah. And invariably, they would say, it doesn't fit. It is physically impossible to put all of these things into this big glass jar. It cannot be done. And so, of course, the stuff, the rocks, was a metaphor for the amount of time we have. The jar is the metaphor for the amount of time we have. And the rocks and the sand and the water, that's all the things that we have to fit into our schedules. And so then Stephen Covey would, miraculously say, let me do this for you. And he would redo it. And what he would do, he would take the big jar and he would put in all the big rocks first. And then he would put in the medium rocks, and the medium rocks would kind of fit in nicely around the big rocks. And then he would put in the gravel, and the gravel would kind of fall in between the spaces left over. And then he would put in the sand, which would, of course, trickle down very nicely in all of the spaces, the minuscule spaces in between the bigger stuff. And then he would pour in the water, and everything would fit, and the crowd would ooh and ah because he's Stephen Covey. Anyway, I, of course, lack that kind of showmanship. But the point is that when you go about organizing your life, if you have your values and the most important things in the front and center of your life, when you put that stuff in your schedule first and make everything else fit around it, it'll work. And for many people, it's doing the most important things the very first part of their day, figuring out the times that they can kind of chunk different tasks so that they're getting everything done, but that on a daily basis, they're prioritizing the things that give them the most meaning and the most value, and that they're making sure that they have time to actually do it. Because without that kind of intentional planning and taking control over your time, life will just happen. There is going to be everything else in the universe that is going to come first. Little emergencies, things that just pop up, and before you know it, another year will have gone by and you will not have made progress on the things that are most important. So figuring out what's most important and planning your life accordingly is where the rubber meets the road of action, because nothing is going to change until you take that action. And so even if in doing this exercise with me, there is even one thing that you can build into your life on a daily basis. If it is exercising, if it is spending an hour in the morning working on the novel that you have inside of you, if it is that nobody does anything except a date night on Fridays with you and your partner, those kinds of big things. It doesn't have to be a zillion things, but really focusing your energy on even one or two things that really, really matter. That is when your life will change. Now, one more thing. This is just a little tip for you. A lot of people, as particularly busy, successful people with lots of friends and things going on, it feels, and demanding jobs, let's all be honest here, it can feel really hard to find the time to do these things that are important to you. But I would like for you to allow yourself to just daydream and think big. I mean, what would your life look like if you were doing the things that mattered the most? Could there be radical things even that you might change? Would it be working from home, moving closer to your job so you're not spending 3 hours in the car every day? What kinds of things? Simplifying your life, if you really thought big. I've known people, not saying that this is what you have to do, but I personally know people who have sold all of their possessions and moved into an RV for a few years and just traveled around and worked from the road and had beautiful lives and had all kinds of fun, and would end work at 4 p.m. and walk out their door and they're in Zion National Park, for the weekend with their family. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. Just allow yourself to daydream and even be fanciful with things that you think about. And because you never know, I mean, maybe, selling all your possessions and moving into a trailer isn't what you need to be doing, but to allow yourself to think creatively and to not get bought into this erroneous idea that just because you've always done something or just because your life is a certain way now, that's always how it needs to be. So that is my last tip for you. But I really hope that listening to this story and doing this exercise with me today was helpful for you. I hope that it sets you up for success in the coming year. Or again, if you're listening to this mid-year, that it helps you get refocused on the things that are really most important to you. So thank you for listening. Of course, feel free to share this podcast with anybody that you think might benefit from it. And if you benefited from it, I would be so grateful if you would consider reviewing this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you hear it, just so that other people will have a greater likelihood of stumbling across this podcast and others that I've done. And again, for the worksheet itself, come to growingself.com, New Year's Resolution Success with hyphens in the middle, and you will be able to download the worksheet from the website. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and I will be back in another couple weeks with a new episode of the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. Thanks. Bye-bye.